You are looking at your hands right now. You can feel them. You can move them. You know exactly where they are. But here's the question no one asks. Where are you? Not your hands. Not your brain. Not the voice commenting on this sentence right now. Where is the one that is aware of all of this? Science can map every neuron in your body. It can trace every signal, every chemical substance, every electrical pulse, but it has never found, not even once, the place where you are. Because your body has a location, your consciousness does not. And in the next few minutes, you will understand why the most advanced neuroscience in the world has reached exactly the same conclusion. That great spiritual masters reached thousands of years ago, that consciousness is not inside the body, and why a single question asked in the right way can permanently change how you see yourself and what you think you will lose when you die. Imagine for a brief moment that you are standing at the edge of the ocean. The sun is slowly setting, the light reflecting on the water as if the horizon were being lit from within. The wind touches your face, the cold sand supports the weight of your body, and the repetitive sound of the waves seems to organize the world into layers. You hear the sea there, the sky above, the ground below. Everything in this scene makes it feel like reality is perfectly arranged into clear positions, as if each thing occupies its proper place in space, including you. And without realizing it, you assume something that feels too obvious to even question. That you are inside the body looking outward, like someone sitting behind the eyes observing the world through two open windows. This feeling is so automatic, so ancient, so intimate, that it blends with the very idea of existing. But now, without leaving this scene, without inventing theory, without relying on memory or philosophy, do just one thing. Try to find exactly where you are. Not your hands, not your foci, not the breath filling your chest, not the mental commentary naming what is happening. You. That which is aware of all of this right now. Perhaps, at first, you try to locate yourself in your head. Almost everyone does. It feels natural to imagine that you are somewhere behind your forehead, hidden behind your eyes, as if there were a small internal center controlling the experience from there. So you bring your attention to that region, you feel your face, your scalp, the pressure of your jaw. You might notice an internal focus around the eyes, but what you find are only sensations, tensions, physical impressions, perhaps even mental images suggesting a self hidden inside. And still, none of that is actually you. All of that is already appearing to you as content of experience. The pressure is perceived, the mental image is perceived, the sense of centrality is perceived, and if it is perceived, it cannot be that which perceives. This is the point where something begins to give. You look at the ocean, and it is in the experience. You feel the body, and it is in the experience. You notice thoughts arising, and they are also in the experience. But the one that perceives the entire scene, that one does not appear anywhere within the scene itself. You find the environment, you find the body within the environment. You even find the feeling of being located. But you do not find yourself as a thing positioned among other things. Since childhood, almost everything around you has reinforced the opposite idea. Someone pointed to your chest and said, "You are here." Medicine learned to look at the organism as the basis of identity. Psychology studied the mind as a product of the brain. Neuroscience advanced by mapping specific areas for language, memory, vision, emotion. And the story seemed clean, elegant. You would be a complex biological organism, and consciousness would be the final result of that process. Like light that appears when current passes through a filament, like heat that emerges when an engine starts running. The brain operates, and as a consequence, you exist. Every time you try to directly find this, you locate it in the body. You only find objects of perception. You only find what is already being seen, felt, noticed. You never find the observer as an object among the rest. And this is where the question stops being merely interesting and starts becoming uncomfortable, because if everything that can be perceived is not you, then the body cannot be the place where you are in the way you always believed. And this includes even the feeling of being inside it. That familiar sensation of being behind the eyes, of occupying a point in space, is also being perceived. And if it is being perceived, it cannot be the true center of what you are. This breaks something fundamental, because suddenly you realize that you have never had direct evidence that you are inside the body only a sensation repeated thousands of times throughout your life, and a sensation, no matter how convincing, proves nothing. Now return to the ocean scene. The body is still there. The wind still touches the skin. The sound of the waves still fills the environment. Nothing has changed in the experience. And yet, something has completely changed, because now there is a flaw that cannot be ignored. You can find everything except yourself as something located. And when this becomes clear, an inevitable question emerges, not as theory, but as direct perception. If you are not inside the body, why does it feel so much like you are? Now observe something even stranger. Even after realizing that you cannot find yourself at any point in the experience, the sensation of being somewhere is still there, firm, almost impossible to dissolve. You still feel like you are here, somewhere behind the eyes, as if you were looking at the world from inside an internal space. This sensation does not depend on proof. It does not depend on logic. It simply happens, automatic, continuous, as if it were an inseparable part of perception itself. And this reveals something important, because if you cannot confirm this location directly, and yet you still feel as if you are located, then this sensation must be being created. It cannot be evidence of where you are. It is just another phenomenon happening within experience, just like the sound of the waves, the light of the sun, or the feeling of the wind touching your skin. The brain is a specialist at doing exactly this. It does not reveal reality as it is. It constructs a functional version of it, an internal model that organizes sensory information into a coherent narrative. Everything you perceive is the result of this construction. Colors, shapes, depth, distance, all of it is assembled from electrical signals that, on their own, carry none of these qualities. And within this model, the brain also creates a reference point, a kind of fictitious center where everything seems to converge, a place from which you appear to be observing the world, but this place does not exist as an identifiable physical structure. There is no point in the brain where someone is sitting watching the experience. What exists is only the sensation of centrality being generated as a function of the system, not as a real entity. To understand this, imagine a first-person video game. The character moves through the environment, looks around, reacts to the world. Everything happens from a specific point of view. It feels like there is someone inside that digital body living that reality. But, there isn't. The player is not inside the character. They simply perceive the experience through that point of view. The place where the action happens is not the place where the player is. And yet, the experience is completely convincing. Now, bring this back to your body. It moves, reacts, occupies space, interacts with the environment, and everything happens from this specific perspective. But the fact that experience happens through the body does not prove that you are inside it. It only indicates that this is the point of view through which experience is being organized. And this is where the structure begins to completely invert. Because if the brain can create the sensation of location, then that sensation cannot be used as a reference to define where you are. It is not a fixed point in reality. It is just part of the model, part of the interface, part of the way experience is presented to you, and this has a profound consequence, because it means that the place where you feel you are may be just a construction, a kind of virtual coordinate within a larger system. And if that place is constructed, then it can exist without corresponding to any real position, which opens a possibility that most people have never truly considered. If your location is a creation, then maybe you have never been in a physical place in the way you always believed. And if that is true, then the next question can no longer be avoided. Who or what is perceiving all of this without being confined to any point within the experience itself? Because everything that can be perceived occupies some kind of position, even if it is just a vague sense of location. The body is here, with weight, shape, defined limits. Sounds seem to come from outside, occupying directions in space. Thoughts seem to arise somewhere internally, as if coming from inside the head. Emotions seem to spread through the chest, through the breath, through the rhythm of the body. Even the feeling of I am here carries an impression of center, as if there were a fixed point where everything converges. But now look more closely. All of this is perceived. All of this appears and disappears. All of this changes in intensity, in form, in location over time, and that which perceives these changes cannot be subject to the same pattern. Because if it were, it would also appear, also change, also be found as something within the experience. And this is where everything silently inverts. You have spent your entire life assuming that you are something inside the world, a localized entity observing an external environment, reacting to stimuli, occupying a specific point in space. But if everything you can find is within experience, then that assumption begins to fail, because you have never found yourself as a thing among other things. Never found the observer as an object within the scene. Everything you have ever known appeared to you, never as you, and this suggests something deeper. Perhaps you are not inside the world in the way you always believed. Perhaps it is the world that is appearing within the field of your experience as a continuous flow of perceptions that has no fixed center where someone is located. Observe this directly. Close your eyes for a moment, if you want, and notice what remains. Images disappear, but experience continues. Sounds still arise. Sensations still emerge. Thoughts keep passing. There is something that remains aware of all of this without needing form, without needing position, without needing a place to exist. You have never found the boundary of this place where experience happens. You have never reached an edge where consciousness ends. Everything you have ever perceived appeared within it, but it itself has never appeared as something that can be seen. This is not a distant philosophical conclusion. It is something that can be verified now in your own direct experience. That which perceives cannot be reduced to something located, because location is a property of what is perceived, not of what perceives. And when this begins to stabilize, not just as an idea, but as real perception, an inevitable consequence emerges. If you cannot be located, then you are not confined to any point in space. And if you are not confined to any point, then you cannot be contained within a physical structure in the way you always believed. The body continues to exist, continues to function, continues to be part of experience, but it stops being the limit of what you are. It becomes something that appears within what you are. And this completely shifts the axis of the question, because now it is no longer about understanding where you are, but about recognizing that the question may have been wrong from the beginning. And if you are not in any specific place, then the next question arises with a weight that can no longer be ignored. What exactly could disappear? If what you are was never located to begin with, and now everything converges towards something humanity has always intuited, but rarely managed to express clearly. 4 millennia different traditions pointed in the same direction, not as blind belief, but as an attempt to describe something that can only be directly recognized. In the Vedanta tradition, for example, there is a central statement, simple and radical at the same time. You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are that which is aware of both. Not as an idea, but as direct investigation. Masters like Ramana Maharshi guided people to ask exactly the question you began asking here. Who am I? Not as a concept, but as a search for that which cannot be found as an object. And what they pointed to was not something distant or abstract, but something extremely immediate, that which never appears, but is present in every experience. Modern science has begun to touch this limit without realizing it. The more it maps the brain, the more it finds processes, correlations, patterns, but it never finds the observer. It never finds the place where experience actually happens for someone. And this silence is not a detail. It is the central point, because everything science can find are things that can be seen, measured, located, and you have already seen this directly. The body can be seen, the brain can be studied, thoughts can be noticed, but you have never appeared to yourself as something that could be found. Never appeared as a thing within experience. And this changes everything, because it means you are not something inside what is being observed. You are that which is seeing all of it happen. In Buddhism, this same insight appears in another way. Instead of affirming an identity, it points to the absence of any fixed entity that can be found. When you search for a solid, permanent, localized self, you find nothing but processes arising and disappearing. Body, sensations, thoughts, everything in flux. And yet, experience continues to happen. There is awareness, but no center that can be isolated within it. What remains is not a thing, but the openness in which everything appears, and this openness cannot be reduced to a point in space, nor to an event in time. And this is where the final question stops being about death, and becomes about identity. If you've never been inside the body, If you have never been found as something located, then perhaps what you truly are has never been something that could be contained, limited, or lost. Perhaps what you call I is not a thing in the world, but the very condition for the world to appear. And when this begins to become clear, not as an idea, but as a silent recognition, something shifts deeply. Because the fear of loss depends on the idea that you are something that can disappear. But that which has never had form, that which has never had position, that which has never been found as an object, cannot be treated as something that is born and dies. And perhaps this is what, in different ways, has always been shown to you, not as belief, but as something you can see now. Perhaps the answer is not something you will find, because everything that can be found appears. The body appears, thoughts appear, sensations appear, but that which perceives all of this has never appeared in the same way. And if it has never appeared, perhaps it has never been a thing. Perhaps it has never been inside anything. And if that is true, then what you are does not begin with the body and does not end with it. If this kind of reflection made sense to you, if something here made you stop and look differently, subscribe to the channel, because this is just the beginning of the questions that truly matter, and leave a like, because it helps this kind of content reach more people who are ready to see this. I'll see you in the next video.